There we are. Okay. Uh, Hello, this is Judy Sarden, and I am here with Teresia Matthews, and she is a working mom. She homeschools her kids, and if you have ever heard of a hustling mama, this lady has had her hustle on for 23 years now?
Yeah.
And so she's going to tell us all about how she has been so creative and figured out ways to bring in income, keep that mind moving, and keep that money coming in while also uh, taking care of two children. So, she's been able to always put her family first. So we are going to hear from Teresia to see how she's done it. So, Teresia, I hand it over to you. Can you tell us just a little bit about your family and what kind of motivated you once you decided you were gonna be an at-home mom to get your hustle on?
Well, basically, I think I'm more of a type A type personality. So the thing about it is I go to work. I would go to work when my son was first born, and I would essentially just forget like I had a kid. They said overtime, I would do overtime, and I'd be like, I gotta call a babysitter. I'm such a bad mom. I didn't haven't checked on my kid because I would just work,
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and just continue to work straight through. And I was nursing, and I'd always wanted to be an at-home mom, but I was going through a divorce at the same time. So having a baby, I just everything finally broke. I had to stay at home. And at that time, started a business as well, but life and all of that just got in the way. But I had to stay at home so that my children could see me. My child at the time could see me. So that was 23 years ago. So so essentially that was it.
Now that's an interesting point. So you said you were going through a divorce. So at the time that you decided you needed to be at home, were you single or by yourself, just you and your son at that time?
Well, actually, when we were still married, and we talked about me being a stay-at-home mom because of my work ethic. But I actually had to end up going to work because of the divorce and separation. And that's when I realized that I really need to stay at home, because I go to work and I could work 10 or 12 hours and not even think about it and just get lost in work. And, here breast filling up, like super heavy.
Yeah.
My baby at the sitter screaming his head off, and he was like, I just cannot. But I think when I was at that time, it was just like I refused to do anything such as be on welfare or, government type assistance, because I just absolutely, I hated the bend over and check, as I call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, the reason I ask is because, a lot of times we hear a lot from moms who are doing it on their own, who are by themselves. And so, having had that experience, it's good to hear that there are other moms out there who made it happen, because I think that's one of the biggest, so many moms, especially from a homeschool standpoint, so many moms want to homeschool their kids. Single moms want to homeschool their kids, and they want to, and just the concept of starting a business at home and they don't have it backup is terrifying for them. Can you speak to that? Because that's huge.
Yeah, it is. I think for me, the main thing was I had to be there for my child because of my work ethic. I wanted to be the mom that was, when he came home from school, because at the time he was not homeschooled. So when he came home from school, I wanted to, first of all, put him on the bus and see him off to school, or be able to be the mom that was there at school, participating in all the activities and things like that, the field trip mom. And then I wanted to be the one that was at home when he came from school and with fresh baked cookies. I wanted to do that, and for him to have that experience. And fortunately for me at that time, I have a mind that says, hey, when you're working for somebody else, I was counting my check and counting their money too. I was like, I'm making these people this much money. If I could do that for myself,
Yeah.
and so that was the start of my first business, something that I loved, which was, or wedding planning. I did that. And then after that, every time, when if it didn't go the way that I wanted or it failed,
Uh-huh.
I would just pick up the pieces and say, hey, what else can I do? I would do anything and everything to stay at home with my kid, to stay at home provide for us, and not to have to be on any type of welfare system, anything that was legal, I should say.
Yeah, no, Teresa, that's so inspiring, because I actually spoke to a long time acquaintance of mine last month. She's a single mom, and she's wanting to do some things, but it's the fear, and so it sounds to me like you're wanting to be at home with your child and not leave him all the time was more of a motivator than the fear.
Yeah, it was. And in fact, I had to fight my staying at home with him. Fortunately for me, they had just started with the work from home. So that was entering into play. And I worked for a few of the companies when it first started. So one of the ones was as data entry. I did that from home. I'd have to go pick up the it was Social Security documents. I have to go pick those documents up, come home, key those in, take them back, do that 2 to 3 days a week, had to have a computer. And that was one of the first work from home things that I did, and followed up by doing customer service, working for one of the first companies that started doing that. And then I had already had that experience in telemarketing and customer service. So that was an easy fit. And I just went right on into that. And I did that for off and on for 25 years. I finally realized I made a career out of that. I really got good at it. I started a call center years later, an actual call center, not the Arise type call center where I worked for them, but where I could go out and get my own clients and service those people. But I realized that I did what I had to do so that I could stay at home and be there for my children.
That's awesome. And we didn't even talk about that beforehand, but that's such people need to hear what you just said and what you just shared. So thank you so much for sharing that. So, okay, so you're originally motivated to be a stay-at-home mom, to work-at-home mom, but a stay-at-home mom, because of your baby. And so you started off doing those different jobs. And so then how did you evolve? Right? I know you've done a lot of things, and I love that. Doing all the things, and you just keep doing it, right? So what else?
Yeah, I just keep doing it. Basically, I have a mind that's creative. So I feel like my kids will tell you, when does she sleep? Because she doesn't get a lot of sleep. But I have a mind that's creative, and so it's always thinking of something. And I had to, I would just say, hey, I want to do that. I give it a shot. I try it. If it worked, great. If I made a lot of money out of it, great. I made money in all of my businesses that I've started and all the businesses that I've worked in. But I found out, hey, it feels like a job. I'm doing it just because I can do it. And then it doesn't really have that passion. So then I'm like, okay, I'll put that to the side and move on to the next thing that I like, and discover I really don't like that either, but I can make money at it, so I'll just do it. And then, but it's not a passion. So I've only really had 2 great passion projects, businesses, or 3 that I've actually worked on, and those just keep evolving in and out of my life. But yeah.
Well, I like that you said, because one of the things I've said several times in the group is we're not trying to work ourselves into another job that we hate. So, because that's not what we're trying to do here. And one of the things I'm really trying to do is help people find their passion, and then figure out how to parlay that passion into a business or a way to earn income. Just a sec. Haley, can you find my headset? The lawn man is coming back around with the edger, and it's about to get really loud. So hopefully my daughter can find my headset. I think, look on the table downstairs. Hopefully she can find my headset before it gets really loud. Anyway, let me know if it gets really loud. I hear them coming. Okay, so you've talked about your passion projects. Tell us about your passion projects.
One of my first passion projects was in real estate. So I started a real estate development company around 2000 and developing affordable housing, low-income housing. I was living in Colorado at the time, and that was really like, I think that was the project that I'd always wanted to develop real estate and build and construction and all of those. I call myself a mud puppy, a mud duck. I like to play out in the dirt. I used to love to, I was an allergy-ridden kid, but building and seeing spaces is something that I could do really well. And so that was one of my passion projects. So I developed, put land under contract, zero money down. So that does work. So I did that, and $2.5 million lot of land, and had that under contract for development, filed for the low-income housing tax credits, went through all the process, won my bid, and then, well, I didn't have a consultant working with me, and they used that to fight against me for me winning my bid with low-income housing tax credits, because I didn't have a consultant. And the consultants cost about $15,000 to $20,000, and they couldn't believe that I did all the work myself, and without a degree in such areas. So, they used that to fight against
science. And nobody.
Yeah, and they use that to fight against me, to take away the credits, and consequently, I pretty much lost my money. I tried to go back in again with that deal, but it didn't work because they said, oh, it's still her project. So what I learned from that, the valuable lesson that I learned from that was, I did have a consultant that was on, a consultant that was, we had a verbal agreement that they would come if I needed them, but I hadn't actually given them the retainer. But we just had a verbal agreement because money was, tight at that time. Sure. The application was $25,000, so money was tight. What I learned from that was to not do things with verbal agreements, get things in writing, and then don't get hung up by the small things. That $2,500. If I raised $25,000, I should have took enough time to raise that $2,500 and actually have the consultants that were necessary on retainer. So I learned not to get hung up by the very small things, or a hangnail, as I call it.
That is so much there. Okay, first off, you learned a lesson. You didn't lay down. You didn't lay down and die, did you? And it wasn't the end of the world, was it?
Well, it felt like it devastated me, because it devastated me.
But here you still stand.
Yes.
And you have continued on, and that's, we always have setbacks. We always have setbacks, but we have to work through them, take our lessons, and move on. And so that's an excellent lesson. But what I really like is what you said is kind of like the saying, don't be penny wise, pound foolish. So that $2,500 could have made a huge difference. And like you said, you'd raised $25,000. What was $2,500 more? And it could have made the huge difference. And so one of the things, it's always tight when you're trying to start a new business, and especially the type of business you're trying to start, where it's really, you have to have a lot of capital. But it's one of those things, recognizing when you need to make the investment.
Right.
And, sometimes we have to make that investment in ourselves, whether it's with, getting coaching, getting a consultant, buying a program, reading a book, buying something. We as women have to make those small investments. That it ended up being really small in the grand scheme of your deal, didn't it? And so when you look at that small amount that could have made a huge difference, you can look back and learn from that. But that's one of the things that as women, we tend to not, You know, my husband, he's really, you know, he talks about me all the time because he's like, you know, you don't really spend that much money. I don't shop, I'm not a shopper or anything like that. But when you spend money, you spend money. So it makes up for all the time that you didn't, you know, spend lots of small sums of money. Because of one or two times you do spend, you spend it. And so he's always laughing at me about that. But one of the things, you know, he reminds me all the time is understanding the value of the sum of money. And so the sum of money was relatively small in your case compared to what you'd already raised, but that small amount made a tremendous difference.
Yeah, I call it a hangnail because it's like I got hung up by the hangnail. You know, just something so tiny ruined my deal when I was fighting in a market that you don't see Black women in.
Yeah.
So there are no Black real estate developers in this area. I mean, maybe there was one. And it's a male-dominated field. So with those obstacles against me, I didn't need to give them a small, tiny thing to say, nope, she's going to be able to do this. Yeah.
But lesson learned. So what did you do with that lesson that you learned?
From there, I, you know, just worked again on I started a tax business and then discovered that I didn't like the responsibilities of the stress of doing taxes for other people and have to keep the files for 7 years. I wanted to be an enrolled agent, but I decided, just as the tax laws were changing, that, you know, this is stressful. I didn't like the knots in my stomach at tax time, praying that I did everything right for the taxes because I know that I'm not held responsible. The individual is held responsible, and I didn't want to do anything to mess up the clients. And that was just one of those things that I just happened to be good at, you know, like I could figure out how to do taxes. So it wasn't a passion thing. It wasn't, so I did taxes. But I learned the difference between what I'm actually of just my ability to do something versus what makes it feel like, hey, this is not work at all. This is just like, you know, I learned that because doing taxes and doing the real estate project, the difference was night and day. Both of them were stressful, but taxes brought on a burden that was like, ugh. Yeah. And the other one made me leap out of bed in the morning.
Yes, and so that's the difference between working a passion business and working a business that turns into a job, that turns into drudgery.
Right. And I went from there to my next passion project, which, mind you, I always had something to make money in the back. So I was always doing two things at one time. I never did just one thing at one time.
Right.
Yeah. So I went from there to starting to develop Kefir, which was my next passion project, which was developing ice creams and, you know, dairy, the kefir, because it's a dairy product. Right. And discovered that the dairy industry is very difficult to get into. I wanted to start a franchise operation. I thought I'd start a restaurant. And I was like, you know, that's really not what I want to do. I don't want to do that. I just kind of want to put stuff on the store shelves. But the process to do that was more difficult than, you know, was like, I see hurdles, I see roadblocks, and I'm like, I don't want to jump over them. And so I went from there to developing cosmetics around that whole same concept, all natural. And I did that for until up until now. So that's still a viable and functioning part of what I do. And and then from there, I started, from now, I've just started another foods company, which is developing a sweetener.
Okay, so tell us about your sweetener. I see your package. Show us your packaging and tell us about it.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see that. It's some...
Hold it still, maybe it'll focus a little bit. So tell us about the sweetener.
So it's basically, this company is called Some Foods, and the sweetener is Some Sweet Plus.
And we'll make sure we put links to whatever you've got going on. We'll attach them to this video. So I know you have a website up for that. Do you have a website for your cosmetics as well?
We just took it down. It got a funny story. I had free ads all over, making offers, and somehow some free websites. And this is good for your ladies that are um, looking at doing something like that. So I had free offers, free ads, and they weren't really getting any traction. But there are these places out there on the web that offer, that have just groups of people who are looking for free offers.
Uh-huh.
Well, they went and reposted my free offers,
Uh-huh.
and it crashed my website
Um,
because they, all of a sudden in my inbox, I was getting
yep.
email upon email upon
Yep.
email upon email for free offers, which I had never had that much traction.
Right.
At the same time, when I was moving my website to a new host, and it crashed the whole thing. And so
What platform was it on?
it's a WordPress site.
WordPress. I knew it was going to be WordPress. I have had to take down, I had a WordPress blog, totally off topic, a WordPress blog that I'd had for years, and all of a sudden I just started getting attacked. Ended up having to take it down. I lost 5 years worth of content, because when you add plugins to that thing, if you aren't paying somebody to keep your WordPress blog up to date, it is subject to exactly what you're talking about. I knew you were going to say WordPress.
Yeah.
I don't do WordPress anymore.
Oh, I love WordPress, but that
Oh.
just happened to be, and it was kept up to date, but I was moving it to a different host,
Uh-huh.
and it all happened at the same time. And so I just got bombarded. I didn't even know these people had took my information, reposted my information, but they captured, but the forms that were in there sent to my email. So I have like an email list of like 3,000 to 4,000 names that I didn't even really work for, because they took it. So, so that just, out, just to put it out there, hey, you guys can, and the people filled out everything. So it was a great lead generator. So, ladies, get a form, put it out there, and get it to those sites if you want to build your email list, because it'll happen just like that.
Quickly.
So
So we'll put a link to your to the Some
Sweet Plus.
Some Sweet Plus. Okay, so we'll put a link to that in below. So tell us about how you got into this.
Actually, I started trying to lose weight, and the main thing I was trying to do was get rid of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to find sugar substitutes and alternatives out there, it's a nightmare. There was nothing out there. And part of my connections that I had previously, in working with Rosie Kafarin, I had all these different food grade companies that I dealt with. And so as I started looking around and trying to find things, I was able to find some solutions through them and start testing, and then try and put things together to make something that was very palatable. Mm-hmm. Because if you're diabetic, which that runs in my family, diabetes, or you're just trying to get to something that's carb free or zero carbs or sugarless or alternative, the sweeteners out there are not very good. They don't taste very good. And I wanted something that tasted like real sugar. And so I started working with them and trying to develop something that tasted like real sugar, and managed to do that. So
I've tried stevia, and it leaves an aftertaste. I don't like it in my tea. And I tried to bake it and stuff. I can still taste the aftertaste. So what about this? Does it leave an aftertaste, or is it? How do you compare it to stevia?
How do you compare? Well, stevia.
First plate taste.
Well, it doesn't taste like stevia. Some Sweet Plus does have stevia in it, but we use the sweetest of the stevia extracts, and we have a proprietary blend that doesn't leave any aftertaste at all. So the combination of what we put together, there's no aftertaste, none at all. It just tastes like regular sugar. It measures just like sugar. It bakes just like sugar. So it's basically, it doesn't have any aftertaste or anything like that. So it tastes just like sugar.
I'm sorry. My daughter is painting her nails, and somehow she has now fingernail polish all over both of her hands.
Oh.
Haley, just get some remover and start working it off, please. No, fingernail polish remover. It's down there with the cotton balls. Awesome. So has the product launched yet? When can we look at it launching?
Yes, we actually launched April 28th. So already
find it.
You can find it on our website at somefoods.com. So
awesome. So and we could probably do a whole nother episode on just selling goods, because in fact I might actually do a separate one. In fact I will, because one of the things that I talked about is 10 timesing a goal.
Right.
And so 10 timesing it, and what you have done here is truly that it's you have a concept, and now you've got packaging. You've had to contact manufacturers, you've had to get packaging, you've had to have design for your packaging, you really had to think, you aim for the moon on that one, but you aim for the stars on that, and and now you've got your packaging, and what so it's on your website. Are you working with any grocery store chains to get it on shelves?
Right now I have most of the grocery stores, they go through, there's a site that they go through to pick up on new products and things like that. So I am listed on that website. So, so we'll be looking forward to reaching out to some grocery store chains. What they look for a lot of times is, hey, nobody's going to take a chance on you. You're brand new. We're not bringing you into this thing. You have to fight for your spot to be. So they look for your sales. So our goal now is to increase sales so that we have a viable business or product that they'll look at and say, hey, we want to get that there. So we want to increase demand. So that's what I'm working on now, is getting it out there, getting it known, and increasing demand for the product. So, so that it'll, everybody's talking about it. So I'm in and out of different Facebook groups, looking at doing some advertising on Facebook, doing blog posts, reaching out to influencers, specific influencers and things like that, so that they can utilize the product in their videos, which will reach their audience, and then that will help us convert demand.
Awesome. So, okay, so I'd say the overarching theme of your life, your business life, has been you set an intention and you do it. You go for it, you do it. You don't sit around and think about it for 2 years. Every single thing that you've told me that you've done, you have set an intention and you've done it. And, you've taken action. I talk about that all the time. And you haven't let setbacks, you haven't let failures stop you or slow you down at all. And, you've taken those lessons learned as even a devastating loss or devastating lesson. You've taken it and you have, learned your lesson, and now going into your next business. And I love that. So one last thing, tell me how, because it sounds like you've been so busy, Teresia, how have you had time to raise 2 babies? So tell me how doing all of this has helped you to raise those babies.
Well, basically my kids they're in business with me. Yeah. So basically whatever it is that I'm doing, they know about. I bring them along. I've always had the motto that if someone invited me to something and they did it and they said no kids allowed, it's just for us adults, I'm not coming.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm taking my kids with me. Yeah, so they're pretty much with me in my business dealings and all of that. I run now. My daughter helps me with social media, because I'm not a big fan of it, but I know it has to be done. So she helps me with social media. They're my test subjects. They tell me, hey, is it good? Is it bad? Does it taste good? Does it smell good? Does it, and I involve them all the way. And I've always brought them up to learn how to do business. you know, to do business. And so they just come right alongside me. So the business lessons are life lessons.
Oh yeah.
I just tell my kids all the time, hey, I failed at math in school, right? In algebra, I mean, I barely got out of the algebra class. I made a D. But when they say that you will use this later in life,
Yeah.
we'll use it later in life.
Yeah.
And I just wish they would teach it the way that you would actually use it. I learned how to solve for X through formulating. I learned how to solve. I mean, I'm like, I got to get to this. How do I get there? Through trying to figure out my profit and loss. I mean, I've learned how to do that. My gross and all of this, I've learned how to do that. That very same math that they tried to teach me in school, I taught myself. And I'm able to teach it to my children because I'm utilizing the method that I was able to learn it to teach them so that they can be, I'm like, this is the actual end goal. How do we get to that goal? And I've done that. So I put that into practice. Reading, they read all my stuff. They write. You write what if I need to know something and I need to get something boiled down to a very minute point, you know, so that I use a lot of words and they say, Mom, you're extra, you know. If I need, okay, then you read this and summarize it for me. That's a book report, see, that you do, and things like that. So I have them to do things like that. I've had them to do that type of thing for me. And I do that with my daughter now, you know, so that that kept them reading at a very high level. Hey, I'm reading this article. I need to read this article. You read this article to me. I studied for a real estate license. I had my daughter read my real estate book. I studied for insurance. I had my daughter read my insurance.
I love that.
I just got them involved. Everything that I'm doing is a learning experience for them.
Yeah. And so did you homeschool your oldest at some point? I know that your youngest is 13, and so you've homeschooled her throughout?
I've homeschooled her for the last 4 years.
Okay.
She's been and my oldest, I homeschooled him for a couple of years, but he didn't want to be homeschooled. He wanted to go to school. He couldn't take it. He didn't like it. So I put him back in school, but we always did summers and to keep him ahead of the curve at school.
Sure. So, but you have managed to be a stay-at-home mom for 23 years.
Yes.
And you did a portion of that as a single mom. And
some of that.
Yeah, at the beginning as a single mom, and you have just kept on rolling. And that's awesome. So leave us with, Teresia, actually, I'd like you to leave us with 2 nuggets. First, I'd like you to leave us with a nugget for the single moms who want to come home. And then for the moms who do have a spouse or who are looking, just because it's the single mom has a totally different set of issues.
Right.
So give us a nugget for the single moms and then the not single moms, if you will.
Since I've been in a situation with both, working from home and being home. For the single moms, I'd say don't be afraid to leap and take that chance. Find something that you can do working from home so you still make your money, so you still make the daily bread. And
that was your customer service and
that was the customer service.
You kept that steady.
Yeah, I kept that steady. Find something to do so you can make your money, make your daily bread, and then go for what you have a passion about. It's gonna mean some long nights, some long nights and some lack of sleep sometimes, but in the end, if it's your passion, it doesn't really feel like that, and you can't wait to get to it. So just keep the coin steady and work your vision, your passion. For the single moms, and then for the single moms, find a support system. You need at least one hallelujah person in your corner, one amen person, one person that's saying, hey, you can do this. You go for it, and leave all the Debbie Downers behind. Sorry if anybody's name is Debbie. leave all of those people behind in the
Yeah.
dust. Don't, and don't even deal with them. Work if you have, and for everybody, if there's a small business, go to the SBA, the SCORE, get you one of those, a counselor from there. They provide great insights, advice. Utilize that. If you have a small business development center around, go to that. It's free. It's free. Go to them and utilize them. Take the courses that they offer. Find agencies that offer the assistance that you need and educate yourself. That's for everybody. But get that support system and that cheer person in your corner, and that person that's going to tell you the truth. No, that doesn't look good. That doesn't smell good. No, that's it. They need to be able to. They can't just be like rah rah rah. Right. But they're support and your truth and your everything, and the shoulder that you can cry on.
Yeah.
And for those that are married, you have that rock in your spouse. I can't, if you don't, then I don't know what to tell you, but you should have that rock in your spouse where you can go to them and you can bounce the ideas off of them and listen to them. Because if they're in your corner, they're going to give you some good advice, some sound advice, and utilize them to be your mouthpiece. Hey, they go out to work. Tell their coworkers, share it with their bosses, share it with the people that they run into. They need to have your business cards in hand and passing them out and be your biggest cheerleader, and so get them on board. And for everybody, get your family on board. Those people who you living in the house with, who are not sleep, and so they can know that, hey, that they can support you and understand if I got this phone call I gotta make. I gotta, I need to make this call. Put the dog outside because he can't be in your body, and things like that. Get them on your side, and to have them supporting you and everybody in the house supporting the goal, because ultimately the business is gonna be a benefit, a legacy for those people who are in the house with you.
Right.
That's going to be the biggest thing. It's like, hey, we're going to be sitting fat one day, we're going to be, this is going to pay for the vacation that we, always wanted to have, and, it's like, hey, I tell my oldest when he wouldn't want to try my skincare products and stuff, and I'd be like, listen, when the money rolls in, and don't look for your cut, because you didn't play a part, Right. But get everybody involved, and and let them know what's going on, and share.
And don't be afraid to share. That's that's such good advice. And this is Teresia Matthews, the poster child for taking action. I love it. Well, thank you so much, and I definitely will probably get you back just for a segment where we're just talking about launching a physical product.
Okay.
Because a lot of people are, there are a lot of people who are doing service-based stuff, but then there are a lot of people who want to do a product. And I think your insights on what took that product from concept to launch is just some good stuff. So thank you so much, Teresia. And
all right.
We will see you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.